What happens when you both stop chasing each other? The truth about silence, love, and power. It always starts with silence. Not the kind that screams with anger, but the kind that quietly echoes in your chest. The kind that whispers, maybe this is really the end. You stop reaching out. They stop trying too. And for the first time in a long time, there's no message, no call, no "what happened" text. Just quiet. And that quiet is where everything starts to get loud, inside your mind. At first you think it's over, but it's not. This silence is just the beginning of truth revealing itself. Because when two people stop chasing each other, what they really face is the mirror of reality. No more distractions, no more emotional tug of war. Just two souls standing apart, forced to feel what they've been running from all along. The fear of losing control, the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of being forgotten. At first, both feel relief. No more drama, no more pressure. You tell yourself you're fine. You even convince your heart that it's peace. But peace doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes peace feels like emptiness, because your mind is addicted to chaos. You miss their name lighting up your screen. You miss the game, even if it hurt you. Because love mixed with pain still feels like love to a wounded heart. But as days turn to weeks, something strange begins to happen. The silence starts to shift. You begin to see things you couldn't before. How much of yourself you gave. How hard you tried to keep something alive that was slowly killing your peace. The silence that once felt like punishment starts to feel like protection. And in that stillness, you begin to heal. Meanwhile, the other person, the one who once felt in control, they start to notice the energy shift. At first, they feel powerful. They think, good, finally, they stopped chasing me. But deep inside, their ego begins to whisper, wait, why did it stop? Why aren't they trying anymore? That's when their emotional armor begins to crack. Because silence is louder than words. It doesn't beg, it doesn't fight. It just reminds. Reminds them of what they lost. Reminds them of how love felt when it was still alive. And the longer the silence lasts, the louder that reminder becomes. They might not say it out loud. They might even act like they've moved on. But late at night, when their world is quiet, your absence starts to feel heavy. They check your profile, scroll through memories, and wonder why this time you didn't come back. Because for the first time, you stopped feeding the cycle. You stopped running after something that wasn't running towards you. And here's where the truth of silence reveals itself. When you both stop chasing, you finally see who was chasing love and who was just avoiding pain. The one who always gave finally learns self-worth. The one who always ran finally faces emptiness. It's no longer about ego. Now it's about awakening. You see, silence has a strange kind of power. It doesn't manipulate. It teaches. It doesn't control. It reveals. It shows who's capable of emotional maturity and who is still stuck in fear. Weeks go by. You begin to breathe lighter. You realize how much peace costs and how cheap chaos really was. Your heart starts to rebuild itself, not around them, but around you. And they start feeling the weight of what they never faced. Their own fears of intimacy, rejection, vulnerability. The very silence they used to protect themselves becomes the same silence that exposes them. For some, this moment becomes their awakening. They begin to question their patterns. Why do I always pull away when it's real? Why do I call independence what's really fear? They might even try to come back. A text, a memory, a random check-in. But it's not about you anymore. It's about their need to test the door. Are you still there? Do you still care? But something inside you has changed. Their charm doesn't pull you anymore. Their silence doesn't control you anymore. Because you've learned something powerful. Love cannot survive where fear still rules. That's the real truth of silence. It's not about who texts first. It's about who grows first. Because silence is not the end of love. It's the beginning of self-awareness. It's the place where obsession dies and self-respect is born. You don't hate them. You just finally see them clearly. And you see yourself even clearer. You realize love should never require chasing. If it's meant for you, it meets you halfway. And if it doesn't, you learn to let go with grace. Because the person who once drained your energy now becomes the reason you discovered your worth. The silence that once broke your heart now becomes the sound of your power. Months later, when you've healed, when you've grown, they might return. Maybe with regret, maybe with curiosity, maybe with a simple, hey. But this time, you'll read their words differently. You'll hear their tone differently. Because you're no longer chasing love. You've become love. And that's the most powerful transformation of all. Because when you both stop chasing each other, you realize this truth. The one who can sit in silence without losing themselves is the one who finally found peace. Silence doesn't end connections. It exposes which ones were real. It doesn't break love. It reveals who was strong enough to stand without needing to chase. Because in the end, silence is not emptiness. It's self-respect. It's peace. It's power.